So after last week's Smackdown, which apparently had pretty low attendance and they had to taper off half of the arena just to make it look like there was a full arena, WWE must have been sitting there thinking to themselves, I wonder what will bring the people to Smackdown tapings. And they must have thought, we need some gimmick matches to put asses in some seats, brother, because that's what we started this show with. Sheamus versus Sandow in a Dublin street fight. I must admit, this was a fun opener. Even though I was kind of, like, what's a Dublin street fight? What's the difference between a Dublin street fight and a street fight? But I just, some of the props you had here. You had a sack of potatoes instead of thumbtacks. You had beer barrels instead of trash cans. You had pub attire instead of tables. You had bar stools instead of steel chairs. And you had green St. Paddy's Day kendo sticks instead of normal cream-coloured kendo sticks. To me, this was pretty fun. And the crowd seemed into it as well. And even though Sandow ended up losing here, I think he still looked pretty good in defeat to Sheamus. This went a good 10 minutes, and I think we all kind of expected Sheamus to win here with it being a Dublin street fight, and Sandow not really being on the level of a Sheamus right now. But still, I thought it was a very fun opener. And to be honest with you, I want to give my thoughts a little bit on the Sheamus character. Is it me, or after being on the pre-show in Payback, does it seem to me that the Sheamus character is just very directionless and very lost? I mean, I know he's in a feud right now with Sandow and Cody Rhodes, but Sheamus is kind of up here, and Sandow and Cody Rhodes are kind of down here, so what's really the point in having these guys feud? I don't really know, and it's hard to think at one point that he was one of the top guys that Vince and Triple H wanted to push, and I think Sheamus as a face is a good idea. And while I know a lot of you people do not care about Sheamus, I think having a Batista-like Irish babyface was a good idea. But judging by what they've done with him, it really just hasn't worked, I'm afraid, with the Sheamus character as a babyface. So as we found out on Raw this week, the little bromance between CM Punk and Paul Heyman is still continuing, with Paul Heyman's even saying that he loved CM Punk. Ah, what a great thing to say. It's a shame it's not Valentine's Day, Paul Heyman. But I like how Paul Heyman and CM Punk are kind of still being friends despite the Lesnar attack and everything like that. And they're not just rushing getting these two apart. It's kind of like a slow tease, which I think is a much better, more logical character development for these two people. But this leads me on to the Miz TV segment, which involved Paul Heyman and Curtis Axel. Is it me or is Miz TV just getting a bit meh? At first I was like, this is a good idea, then they overdid it too much, and now I just don't really find them all that interesting that much. This really, thank God though, instead of highlighting a Raw feud, this is all about highlighting a Curtis Axel and Miz feud. You had Curtis Axel being brought out by Paul Heyman, and Axel ends the segment by taking out Miz, and you know what? The thing I like about Curtis Axel right now is the fact that, not he's a Paul Heyman guy, it's the fact that that Intercontinental Championship really seems to mean something to him. You kind of get that feeling with Curtis Axel that the Intercontinental Championship is something that really means a lot to him by the way he talks about it. And I'm guessing that is going to be part of his character going forward. But I think a nice starter feud for Curtis Axel is against someone like a Miz. And to be honest with you, it's nice to see a mid-card feud being highlighted in a segment like this, a talking segment involving a guy like Paul Heyman. Wow, the Divas just gets even more corny every week, doesn't it? So on Raw, we had AJ Lee dress up as Caitlyn, and I had the pleasure this week of seeing Caitlyn dress up as AJ. When Caitlyn was cutting the I was like, aren't you supposed to dress up as a person to kind of like imitate them and kind of make fun of them that way, not just cut a promo that you could do normally on what they have done? I don't know, it just felt like a bit of a waste of Caitlyn dressing up as AJ when she really didn't imitate AJ that much and make fun of her that way, which is what dressing up is all about, really. Look at what AJ did to Caitlyn on Raw. And AJ Lee versus Natalya was happening in the ring. We had the same match last week, only this week Natalya picks up the win after Caitlyn did the AJ prance around the ring. So that, at least you can say that generally Divas feuds are pretty crappy and there's no storytelling. At least here, WWE are trying different things in the Divas division to try and help forward along this feud. When was the last time we've seen a feud that kind of meant this much in the Divas division? I'm just saying. And we end the segment with Caitlyn coming in and spearing AJ while Big E stood there and did nothing. Not a very good bodyguard, Big E. That's all I'll say about that. He's coming! And you know what? I can't wait for Bray Wyatt. It's one of the things I'm most excited about right now, is the introduction of the Wyatt family. It should be epic, it should be awesome, and it should be damn good. So on Raw this week, we had the announcement of the All-Star Money in the Bank, where all 7 people in the Money in the Bank have been ex-world champions. Well, apparently Teddy Long wanted to do something different with Money in the Bank this year and think about the future Holla Holla player. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, duh, isn't that what Money in the Bank is for generally, to try and put some focus on some future talents? I'm just saying. So on Raw, they announced their Money in the Bank. This week on Smackdown, they announced their Money in the Bank. It was announced in a backstage segment, which kind of made it feel a bit meaningless. But I'm just going to give a couple of thoughts on the announcement here. We've got Fandango, Jack Swagger, Antonio Cesaro, Cody Rhodes, Damian Sandow, Dean Ambrose, and Wade Barrett. Yes, all 8 of the guys in this are heels. And whereas the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match is full of mega stars and everything that people that have been world champions, apart from Jack Swagger, none of these guys have been former world champions, which I think is better, even though I don't think the match will be as good as the Raw Money in the Bank. I think at least Smackdown will give us something new. At least the World Heavyweight Championship Money in the Bank will feature some new talent that we could try and push into the main event scene. The only guy out of these lot that has really been built up to win this is Dean Ambrose. That's all I'm going to say about this. Me and NJ are going to do a video on who we feel are going to win the Money in the Bank this Sunday, so make sure you check that out, where we'll be giving more thoughts on. I will be doing the Smackdown Money in the Bank, NJ will be doing the Raw Money in the Bank, and then we're going to give our overall thoughts on it as well. I just want to take this opportunity to talk about Daniel Bryan's big win on Raw, where he actually won clean over Randy Orton. It's not very often someone beats Randy Orton clean, even with 2 wellness policies, brother. But my point here is, looking at the ratings, and I know that IWC and YWC do not like it when I mention ratings, but I am a businessman primarily. But Raw this week did only 104,000 viewers plus in the overrun in a storyline built around Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. And while you guys may have loved the match and loved the fact that Daniel Bryan is getting this massive push, and he may be getting a great crowd reaction, but judging by the numbers, guys, which we have to say are facts, it doesn't seem like Daniel Bryan is much of a draw. And it just doesn't seem like the casual fans are really warming to this guy as much as the internet people do. And I say, numbers do not lie. It sounds to me like Daniel Bryan really isn't a draw. And this is, the casual fans just aren't clicking with Daniel Bryan. They're not tuning in to see him, which is a bad thing. Which to me kind of says that maybe this main event push that he's going to get won't happen. Because if he's not going to draw good numbers in main event segments, which are kind of devoted around him, then how is he going to get good ratings for a TV show, which is generally primarily about ratings? I'm just saying, Daniel Bryan, as we've seen here, when a show is built around him generally, he isn't a draw. And it's something that we just have to accept in the IWC. Anyway, Randy Orton versus Kane with Daniel Bryan on commentary. I liked how they did this. You know, both guys are in this all-star Money in the Bank. Orton and Bryan have had this kind of mini feud, and Daniel Bryan thinks he is the weak link, and Kane is trying to, say that he isn't the weak link, blah, blah, blah. The end of the day, Randy Orton wins when Daniel Bryan rolls Kane into the ring, who was injured at ringside, to get RKO'd. And I just liked the way this whole thing was done. Daniel Bryan on commentary, whenever Kane was coming on top, he was like, yeah, go Kane. But whenever Orton was on top, he'd be like, oh, Kane's got this, Kane, So it's kind of like, it's good character development for Daniel Bryan. And even though he wasn't a draw on Raw this week, I still hope he gets this main event push. I just think, even though he does, it will just be another way of feeding another superstar to Cena, though, won't it, really? I just want to ask you an honest question. After losing to Cena at Payback in the 3 Stages of Hell and going through a year without winning a pay-per-view event, do you care about Ryback anymore? This is an honest question. In the comment section below, do you give a shit about Ryback anymore? Especially as a heel. Because I know, even though I did like Ryback when he first came in, I'm starting to not care about him this much anymore. And that's a bad thing. And you know what? Who the fuck idea was it to have Ryback have an injury and then have him moan about it? I thought the whole point of Ryback's character was to be this monster that couldn't be hurt, that couldn't be defeated. Yet, when Chris Jericho comes out making fun of his injury, he's saying, oh, no, I'm injured! What the fuck stupid booking is this for Ryback, who's supposed to be a monster fucking heel? This is fucking ridiculous. And one of the reasons why not only the heels suck in WWE, but why WWE can just never seem to make stars. Ryback came in with all this momentum. They put him in the main event scene too early. He's gone a year without winning a pay-per-view match. And ironically enough, this Money in the Bank, he will probably win his first pay-per-view match, but no one will freaking care about it. He's definitely going to beat Jericho at Money in the Bank. The way this is set up is dumb because it was in a backstage segment. It's pointless. And even though Ryback is going to win this, I really don't feel like anyone is going to care. And WWE only has themselves to blame for booking Ryback like this typical cowardly fucking heel shit they do with all their heels on the WWE roster and seemingly all their young stars that they're bringing through. And it's fucking ridiculous. So we had 6-man tag action, The Shield versus Christian and the Usos. And Christian gets the victory here after spearing Ambrose after some nice ring to outside spots from Seth Rollins and the Usos in order to distract Dean Ambrose to allow Christian to get the win. And I just really want to focus here on the future and something that I'm noticing in the WWE product right now. It looks like they're trying to set up a Christian Ambrose feud for SummerSlam. They're both in Money in the Bank. This is going to go on until SummerSlam for the US Championship, in my opinion. And the Usos versus Shield, it's a new match, and I'm really glad that the Usos are finally getting some kind of push. It's been long overdue, that's all I will say. But in my opinion, the thing is with the Shield is it was starting to get a bit repetitive, it was starting to get a bit but now it feels very fresh. They've got Christian, they've got the Usos in there, and in my opinion, this kind of sums up WWE's product right now. It just feels a little bit fresher. You know, you've got Mark Henry and John Cena, you've got this thing with CM Punk and Brock Lesnar. You know, you've got Ziggler being a face now. You've got Daniel Bryan's push. You know, different people being pushed, etc. And it just feels like the WWE product is getting a little bit fresher, which in my opinion is making SmackDown a much better show to watch than, say, it would have been about 6 weeks ago, or 6 months ago, I should say. Do you know what I sometimes don't like about wrestling? It's the fact that sometimes you just get these character shifts that just go like that. 1 minute, there's something different, and the next minute, they're a totally different character. Look at Ryback when he came in. They brought this guy in as a monster-killing babyface, and then they had him turn heel and be cowardly heel. An example of a character change just going from one spectrum to the other spectrum. And the same thing is happening with Alberto Del Rio. You know, for the last couple of months, he's been going on about how he's made in America. And next minute, now, you know, he's had a bit of a violence streak against Dolph Ziggler. And all of a sudden, now, just because he's a heel, it triggers him making fun of Americans and making fun of their accents and doing Mexican stuff. You know what? And I know this is all being done to get heat. And I know this Fiesta Del Rio segment was all done, you know, to get heat. But these quick character shifts, in my opinion, is something that WWE does far too often, and something I believe TNA does a better job with, you know, letting these guys' characters act a bit naturally. And it just, these character shifts go there. Del Rio, heel, face, heel, blah, blah, blah. And do you know what I mean? It kind of ruins my perspective, and it kind of ruins the way I watch wrestling. You know, a bit of a lack of consistency there. But anyway, about this Fiesta Del Rio segment, it was your typical Del Rio Mexican-style segment. I mean, they do the Fiesta, you know, they do the piano thing, they speak some Spanish, but Ziggler comes out to trash it. He gets a piece of Del Rio, he gets a piece of Ricardo. It was kind of just like, you know, your typical Fiesta-style segment. And seeing Ziggler as a babyface, it was kind of weird, but it was kind of cool, the fact that we know the internet can now cheer for him, and it can actually be good under WWE's terms here. So Dolph Ziggler, fine. I'm okay with that. I just want to quickly talk about Del Rio here again. Is it me, or does it always seem like Del Rio is involved in the World Heavyweight Championship picture? I mean, he was involved in the World Heavyweight Championship picture against Sheamus, then against Big Show, now against Swagger, and then now against Dolph Ziggler. It just seems like they're trying to put everything on this guy and pushing this guy to the moon, turning him babyface, then going back to heel, blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't feel like it's clicking. It doesn't feel like Del Rio is as much of a star as WWE are making him out to be by the amount of times he's been put into the title picture. He's already a 4-time world champion. And yet he's not this big superstar I feel that WWE may feel he is. Be interested to get your thoughts on that. Now I'm going to go on my overall thoughts on this edition of SmackDown. I'll say this about SmackDown this week. I enjoyed watching this show. There was a lot on this show to like. You know, you've got some good wrestling on there. You know, some good feuds on there as well. It seems like WWE are really shaping out their feuds now, even with Money in the Bank going forward. And it just seems to me like, I don't know about Raw, because I don't really watch or care about Raw, as you probably know by now, but it just seems like SmackDown just feels refreshing. It just feels like a bit of a breath of fresh air. Things have changed around. We've got some new stuff that we haven't really seen before too many times. Yes, we've got some repeated matches like Sheamus and Damian Sandow, etc. Randy Orton, Kane, etc. Del Rio still in the whatever championship scene. But things feel refreshed. That's what I'll say about this SmackDown. Be interested to hear your thoughts on SmackDown, though, down in the comment section below. And make sure you tune in for my NXT review tomorrow night, which I will record right after I've recorded this. So thank you very much for watching this review. From me, the V-neck wearing, AJ Lee lusting, Cody Rhodes revering, Mr. Parkin. And no, even though I'm wearing a CM Punk Best in the World shirt, there's no way I'm the best in the world. There is only one best in the world. And if you ain't a believer, then Bray Wyatt sure as hell gonna make you a believer, man. Simple things, man. The simple things in life will get you the furthest, man. You see what you see here? You see life. This represents living to you mortal human beings. Well, to Bray Wyatt and his family, this represents time. And you know what time is, man? You don't understand, man. Time is on my side.